Hello everyone, this is the quick overview of the 5 iframe multi-stream video traffic system. And of course there is a PDF handout for you to look at. Keep in mind that although you may not have seen anything like this before, it's not as complicated as it might feel for beginners at the beginning. Once you go through your first process and once you watch my over-the-shoulder videos, it'll be easy for you, probably after the second, third, or fourth time. Just note that it does take a little getting used to, but once you've got it, you'll start to see the traffic, and when you see traffic coming in your weblog files from multiple streams, it gets kind of fun. You get that kind of excited feeling when you start getting traffic from multiple sources, okay? Now, in the first module where we talk about YouTube or vlogging and blogging, or video blogging and or podcasting, depending upon which route you choose to go, I'm going to start that module talking about the types of strategies and stories that you can flip. I call this story flipping. There's more than one kind of story that you can choose to create, and this is where people get confused. Is there's not just one right way to do it. And I've got a nice spreadsheet available to all of you that talks about, currently there are 5 different story types and strategies for fast flipping, and your business model and your interest and your preference is going to modulate which type of story that you use. You might use one strategy, like the evergreen article alert, or you might use the authority jacking strategy or the news jacking strategy. Okay, we'll get into each one of those on the frame 1, YouTube and SoundCloud. And again, it's important that I get into this first, because if you don't understand that there's different kinds of stories and different parameters and elements for each kind of story, you won't create the story right, and you won't know which of the frames in the 5-frame stacking system that you're going to need, because you might not choose to use video in your story stack, although I highly recommend that you do, because when you use video as ground zero, it's one frame that seems to get a lot of reach and a lot of traffic through all the frames. However, if you do not use that particular frame, or for example, if you're not using story number 4, then you may not want to use Cora as one of the frames. So we get into each one of those specifics. It'll become incredibly clear and incredibly fun once you realize that you just have to remember what kind of story you're doing to know how many frames you're stacking. Okay, so frame 1 is your YouTube, SoundCloud, your ground zero. Okay, once you've determined what kind of story it is that you want to flip or create, then you can go ahead and make your video or your audio if you're podcasting. Okay, frame 2 is Pain Finder and Chorus Indication. I have a software called Pain Finder that we designed, and that allows you to find what the most popular questions are around a particular kind of keyword, and you can insert your video in this. This is something we talk about as Cora Inception. Many people forget to put a video inside their Cora answer, and we're going to show you all that. In fact, we already have some of that knowledge for you in some of our older videos in the networkempire.com members area. Please do refer to the Pain Finder Empire course, which has a little bit of information on that. I'm going to cover it again, but I just want you to know that there's more information in there. Okay, the third frame is Storify, the multi-talented story flipping tool. I love this tool. It's fantastic. Frame 3 is Storify. Include your video in your Storify story, of course, or your SoundCloud or your SoundCloud, which is your audio or podcasting story if you want. Sometimes I actually do both, because I do get a little extra traffic off of SoundCloud. Specifically artists and health and wellness, you probably want to do audios once in a while as well, because for some reason the health and wellness industry likes podcasting more than the technology industry. Makes sense, I suppose, but test your audio receptivity to podcasts in your industry and see if it works for you. Okay, frame 4 is your blog, your golden frame. We talk about your golden frame as the frame of your blog theme. Even when you're embedding a Storify story into your blog, you own the frame. So your ads, your images, your even banners to your own products and services can still be surrounding that story. Okay, so I also want to point out that we're only talking about embedding Storify stories optionally. You do not have to. And we're only talking about embedding them in the story, embedding the Storify story inside your blog on certain kinds of categories, like, for example, real-time industry news. I am frequently embedding Storify stories in industry news. But I make a special category for it. We're not talking about embedding non-evergreen. I'm sorry, we're not talking about embedding evergreen stories into your blog. If you have anything that takes 30 minutes or greater to create, you want to go ahead and put that right in the WYSIWYG editor and not embed an iframe story from Storify in it. Okay, you want to embed stories that meet one of the parameters in the type of story grid that I've given you, the story types and strategies for fast flipping. If it doesn't fit this category, you're probably going to want to include it as a real blog post that's taken time and energy to create. And when you do that with a real blog post, then you can probably follow up with something called an evergreen article alert story. And that is type number 1 up here, where you announce the publishing of information on your blog. So it's almost like you do a mini press release for your major article or blog that's been blog post that's been created from the perspective of a subject matter expert. Okay, we get more into how that works. So that's the golden frame. Okay, now frame 5 is scoop it, the curation network. Then you're going to scoop that story in your blog. Frame 6 is going to be scooping your Storify frame. That's the bonus frame. I do call this the 5 iframe punch, but it's actually 6 if you include the bonus. I strongly recommend that you include this frame because it literally is a secret, at least right now. Probably when this course is launched, it won't be as a secret. But when you embed a Storify story into your Scoop It magazines, especially one that's thematically focused on your correct keyword that you've used, that you've found with Domain Web Studio, SEO Silo Builder, this is other software we built, or anything else, it's going to be pretty, you're going to get a lot of traffic from Scoop It because of the way that Storify looks inside the Scoop It frame. I think if that ever changed, if it didn't look so beautiful, I don't think you'd get as much traffic. But for some reason, the Scoop It curation community enjoys the way Storify stories look, and will often share that with the community. Okay, that's the bonus frame 6. Then the icing on the cake is the micro frames and the micro curation. We're just talking about things like Twitter, Google+, Pin, anything that you can use as a bookmarklet where you just click up on the browser where your bookmarklets are. If you don't know what a bookmarklet is, we're going to show you. And things like Twyla has a great bookmarklet for something called a power tweet. We only recommend this primarily for your WR1 or your primary authority sites that are branded to your company. Google+, Pinterest, and then you have optional extra traffic like SlideShare, StumbleUpon, Reddit, Dig, and Tumblr. Not all of those have bookmarklets, but those are extra platforms that if you have the time, money, and energy, resources, and maybe an outsourcing person to add your content to those locations, that of course is going to give your story a whole lot of reach extra than just the items that I've shown you today. Okay, so that's a brief overview. Go ahead and move on to the next module because we're going to jump right in to the type of stories or video story to flip or create, and we're going to talk about YouTube and your ground zero branded broadcast content. So this module is really going to be focused on YouTube and what kind of story to create, and a little bit about SoundCloud for those of you who absolutely just do not want to use YouTube, which I strongly recommend that you do because you get massive amounts of traffic from YouTube when you use it properly, and that is something that you just got to know how to do. All right, so I'll see you on the next module.